Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome back. This is our 10th lecture on UAE Economic Substance Regulations, and we are discussing relevant activities. Out of the 9 relevant activities, 6 relevant activities we have already discussed, and today we are discussing holding company business. This is one of the critical relevant activities. Holding company business, it has been given in the law that a company which is a holding company as per law. Second, the primary function of the company is to invest in the shares or equitable interests. Third, the company is not carrying any other commercial activity. If these 3 conditions are being fulfilled, then we will say the company is in holding company business. If the company is in holding company business, the income of the company would be in the form of dividend or in the form of capital gains only. And investment in equity can be in the form of shares, or it can be in the form of incorporated partnership, or it can be any other instrument that gives the licensee beneficial ownership. They said if the company is conducting a holding company business, then the company will be subject to reduced economic substance requirements. In the reduced economic substance requirement, company will not be required to perform the SIGA activities in UAE. There is a possibility that the licensee is conducting any other relevant activity along with the investment in equity. So we will say if the licensee is not in holding company business, but the licensee has investment in equity, and licensee is conducting any other relevant activity, there is a 2 possibilities that relevant activity can be IP business or it can be any other relevant activity. If the other relevant activity is intellectual property business, then it will be subject to enhanced economic substance requirements. Otherwise, normal economic substance requirements would be applicable. If the licensee is conducting holding company business, then licensee will not be required to perform SIGA in UAE. If the licensee has investment in equity, along with this licensee is conducting any other relevant activity, then SIGA related to that relevant activity would be applicable. Regulatory authorities are Ministry of Economy, competent authority in the free zone, and competent authority in the financial free zone. This is a table which gives us further detail related to the holding company, and I have converted this detail in the form of flowchart. So investment, it should not be holding company, it should be investment by the licensee. Investment by the licensee, it can be in the assets or it can be in the equity. If the licensee has made an investment in the assets, these assets can be tangible assets or it can be intangible assets. If these assets are tangible assets, might be these are immovable assets and might be these are movable assets. If the licensee has investment in assets and these are immovable assets, then it has been written in the guide that ESR will not be applicable. If the licensee has investment in assets, these are movable assets, then it has been given in the guide that sale of the related asset will not be subject to ESR, but lease of the related asset will be subject to ESR under the lease finance business. If the licensee has investment in intangible assets, these intangible assets can be of 2 types. Might be intellectual property, might be non-intellectual property. If the licensee has investment in non-intellectual property like goodwill, it will not be subject to ESR. If the licensee has investment in intellectual property, and this is high risk intellectual property, then enhanced economic substance requirement would be applicable. On the other hand, there is a possibility, as we discussed, licensee has an investment in the equity. If the licensee has an investment in the equity, there is a possibility that licensee has investment only in the equity. If the licensee has investment only in the equity and all related three conditions are being fulfilled. What are these three conditions? Licensee by law is a holding company. Second, licensee is not conducting any other commercial activity. And third, the primary function of the licensee is to make an investment in the equity. If all the three conditions are being fulfilled, then we will say this is the holding company. It will be subject to reduced economic substance requirements. If the licensee has investment in equity, along with the investment in equity, licensee has investment in any other relevant activity, then licensee will be subject to ESR. If this other relevant activity is high risk IP business, then licensee will be subject to increased economic substance requirement. If the licensee has investment in equity, along with this licensee is conducting non-relevant activity, then licensee will not be subject to economic substance requirement. Let's discuss. These are the some examples which has been given in the related guide. They said ABC company, this company has investment in 4 subsidiaries and company is getting income in the form of dividend from the subsidiary, and company doesn't have any other investment, so it will be subject to reduced economic substance requirement. In the second example, they said there is a company DEF LLC. This company holding shares, along with this company is conducting non-relevant activity, which is a food business. Since company has an investment in the equity and company is conducting non-relevant activity, so economic substance will not be applicable. In the third example, GHI LLC, company has investment in equity, along with this company is conducting a relevant activity, and this relevant activity is not high risk IP business. This is lease finance business, so it will be subject to economic substance requirement. In that example, company is acting as a trustee. Trustee LLC is acting as a trustee, and the trustee LLC is managing, holding the assets in the capacity as a trustee. Means the company is providing services. These are the trustee services. So company is not making any investment in the equity. Company is not conducting any other relevant activity. So economic substance requirements will not be applicable. Thank you very much for joining us. Stay safe.